Hi, good evening, everyone. This is just to recreate the discussion which we had recreate the process for the discussion which we had it in the morning. Apologize in the had a kind of a misunderstanding in the morning where I told that the details or the length, width, and height which we enter it in the product details is for the individual products, but that's not the case. How Frank has designed the entire configuration in the purchases, everything is on the case. Uh, just to explain it, the length, width, and height which you are entering it in the product detail are not, if it is a cup, or not for the individual cup, but they are for the overall cases. So everything he has configured is based on that particular logic. So it's like the products are bought in cases, the product are sold in cases, and they are stocked in cases. That is how he has actually designed it. That's where actually everything there was a misunderstanding in the morning when I told that it's just for the individual product. It is not for the individual cups. It's for the overall cases with which holds that entire cup. So let me just recreate that in the beginning what I wanted to show it to you in the morning. So first, creating a product, add, let me add it as sample cup 1, and the most important thing in this screen, again, I'm not going to touch the stocking unit. I'm not going to change it anything. I'll just leave it as cases for it will be by default, it will be cases. Again, even if whatever the unit you change it doesn't have any effect, just to avoid confusion, I'm going to leave it in case. The second thing here is when you add it, you want to tell the system based on what it's going to evaluate the product when actually it hits your stock. So as we decided, it will always be average. And the second thing, I'm jumping into the catering disposables tab. Again, in the catering disposables tab, the length related, this is for the case, putting it as 500, and this is case, and even the gross weight, let me give it as 1.5. This is also related to the case. Again, all the other tabs captures information, but it's only for recording purpose. We don't do any calculations based on all the other tabs information. It's only related to this particular length, width, and height. We do the calculations. Again, just for sample, even this is where you will actually store the detail related to how many products are there in this particular pack. Let's say like you have 25 sample cups in one particular pack, and there are 10 packs in a case. So that's how we capture the case details, and this is related to the height, width, and length for the cases. Now I'm going to get into the costing part. In the costing, I am not going to change anything right now. You can actually see once we enter a transaction how this particular screen gets affected, what the data has been reflecting here. Next one I'm going to go is into the purchasing part. In the purchasing, the only thing I'm going to enter is the list price. Let's say I'm going to give it as 50. And if you notice, this CD landed cost as of now is 0. So let it be as 0. So we can actually leave it. Right now I'm not going to do anything there. Just I'm going to give, just for recording purpose, I'll give this as a default supplier. And the same way, I'm not going to give any duty rates and everything right now. Let's leave it as it is. We'll visit this particular page again once we add few transactions for this particular product. Now let me save this product. So again, to revisit, only thing I entered is I just entered the basic setup in the basic setup, I just gave this particular average as valuation method, and in the catering info screen, I just entered the case length, case width, and case height, and the cases gross weight. Let me save this. Now let me go back to a purchase order. I'm going to add a purchase order. Giving a container size. If you notice, the moment I enter the container and I tab it out, you will get the overall container volume and everything. Now let me add the product sample cup 1, and the moment I enter, let's say I'm going to order 100 units this time. As and when I enter the quantity, you can notice the overall used cubic capacity gets changed accordingly. That's one thing, that's one part of it. And the second part is, if you notice in the line level, you can see what is the additional cost which takes effect in that particular product. Let me just expand it so that you can see it. So there are two things. One is the additional cost on this line level, and other one is the CD total cost line for this particular line. Again, right now, because we are doing the transaction for the first time for the product, both these columns are same. We'll show you when we do the next transaction, I'll show you the difference, what is the difference between these two columns. Now if I save it, so now once I'm created the order, let me go back and then receive this order. So I'm confirming the delivery, and I'm entering what is the supplier reference and how much I have received it. And if you notice, like whatever the value I have received, I have entered it, and also this is where I will enter what is the actual cost, which additional cost which I have incurred for this particular line. Let's say like I have incurred 50 euro more for that particular line for the product. For this particular line, that's the additional cost which is I received it. The difference between this one and which we have it in the purchase order is, in the purchase order, that is more like a estimated value, and this additional cost is the actual cost which you have incurred for receiving this product apart from the net price. And ideally this cost should be there in the docket, in whatever the document you are receiving it along with the product, you need to have this. So if I click on save, now we can see how this particular transaction affects the actual product's statistics. So you have received this particular product. Now if I go back, edit this particular sample, if I go back to my costing, you can see last time I didn't entered anything there, but based on whatever the value which we have entered it, whatever the received one, you can actually see the last cost base 50.50, and there the estimated last cost also gets affected. The same you can see it in the purchasing as well. You can actually see the value it gets affected. Now you can also notice the difference between the list price and actually the landed cost price. So that's that particular the value which you have entered it when you are creating the purchase delivery gets loaded on this particular catering disposables CD landed cost, and it shows you this value here. Now if I change the freight, let's say like I'm adding 2.3% of duty, you can notice the values getting changed here. Again, the list price actual and the list price base remains constant. The only thing gets changed is the landed trade base and the CD landed cost base. again you can have this. So based on that, these values gets changed. Now let me save this. This time let me create another purchase order for the same product. Add F2, selecting a different supplier this time. Number of container, same cup. This time let me order 500. Let me just order only 20 this time. The reason why I am reducing the quantity is just to show you the variation, just to show the difference in the price. So if you see like this 514, that is the container price per CBM, this 514, and that gets divided based on the quantity you are we are entering it here, and based on this additional cost for this particular line gets changed. The additional cost for this gets changed based on the value which we are entering it here. And if you notice last time, both the column value was same, but this time if you notice, the additional cost says 25.73, which is directly 514 divided by 20, but this one shows 82.396. The reason is it is picking up this value 56.66. Let me just show it to you. So it is picking 56.66 from this value, and it is adding the value of this particular transaction, which is plus 25.7353, and it gives you the overall value for it. Again, it just the decimal calculations, it just gives you if you round it up to 2, it will 2 decimals, it will give you exactly the same. Because rounding up to the 4 decimals, there is this variation, this 514.7059 divided by it, it gives you that particular variance. But the idea is, from the CD landed cost, this value gets calculated and it is adding on top of it, and then gives you the for this particular line, what is the total catering disposables total landed cost which you are having it. Again, if I save this right now, now again I go back to this, I am receiving this particular delivery, same I am receiving it. This time I'm not going to give any, I'm telling that there is no additional cost to it. This is what actually the cost in which I am receiving it. Let's see what is the difference it makes to the product statistics. So when I save it, now let me go back to the product, edit it. Same way, if I go back to the costing, if you see the average, last time it was showing as 50, this time the average cost is 50.42, because it just dividing it based on the overall how much you have received and what is that particular value for which you are receiving it. And the estimated landed cost gets calculated based on the purchase delivery which we are doing it. The same will get impacted in the purchasing, same will be appearing in the purchasing module as well, tab as well. So you can see the CD landed cost is 56.15, which is the same thing appearing in the costing. And again, the list price remains same. It's only thing based on whatever the value in which you are receiving those product, you will receive the landed trade base, and the landed catering disposables landed cost value gets affected when, as and when you receive the product, and when it hits your stock, all these particular calculation gets affected. So this is, I believe this is what actually you are looking for in terms of the landed cost. So if there is any feedback, please let me know. Thank you.